Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. It's nice to see the gallery with some folks and have some energy in the room, and welcome to Councillor Blacklock online this evening. We respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather is on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nations, the traditional keepers of this land. We have no introduction or approval of late items this evening. If I can get a motion to adopt the agenda for February 5th. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the agenda? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. We have 4 delegations this evening, so we'll just call for each individual delegation to come up, and you'll have 10 minutes. And then if there's any questions from council after, we'll entertain questions after your presentation. So I will ask for Mark Harrison to come up from the Comox Valley Regional District to present to us on the Regional Parks and Trails final plan, and we have a presentation. Welcome, Mark. And you'll just have to press until it's red for the online. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And it's nice to come, and there's a full gallery. So it's kind of nice to see. My name is Mark Harrison. I'm the manager of parks at the Comox Valley Regional District, and just here to present the final plan for the Regional Parks and Trails Service. Kate, who is our consultant that drafted the plan, is online, and she'll be available after my presentation if there are any specific questions related to the plan or process. And at this point too, I want to thank Robbie Nall, the Parks Manager at Comox, who was integral with this process and provided a lot of feedback and input. So thanks a lot, Robbie. What's that? Okay. So in terms of the agenda, I just want to speak really quickly to the service history, just give it a bit of an overview. And then I want to touch on what are regional parks throughout the engagement as we work through the Regional Parks and Trails Strategic Plan. There was a lot of confusion about what is a regional park and how it differs from community parks. So I just want to touch on that a bit. And then I'll speak to the strategic plan highlights, and then I will talk about next steps and then open it up for questions. So service history overview. So how did we get here today? So way back when, 1971, there was actually a service was developed for the Regional Parks and Trails. It was under the umbrella of the Comox Strathcona Regional District. So that's when the Strathcona Regional District and the CVRD here were all kind of one big, large regional district. So it was quite large geographically. It was established in 71. It actually, through that service, there was actually a number of parks that were actually acquired and started kind of that service. And that was like Seal Bay Park and Goose Pit, Mount Jeffrey. They were all acquired under this regional park service. Eventually, that service became dormant in 1998, and it was largely because it was just getting defunded. And I think there was, it was tough to manage a service over such a huge geographical area. So when it became dormant, the Regional Park Service basically took on those parks and have been managing those parks that were kind of supposed to be regional parks under the umbrella of the electoral area service. And so we've been the regional district's been managing and operating those parks. Between that time and I started in 2016, and I know that there was discussions about a regional park service between the various parks managers, and we were all kind of struggling with capacity issues. So this idea of a regional park service has been floating around since at least 2016. In 2020, staff were directed by the CVRD board to undertake a background study into the Regional Parks and Trails Service. And it was really, that study was meant to inform the elected officials so they could make informed decision on whether they wanted to establish a service or not establish a service. So that study was presented to each of the municipalities. It was presented to the Electoral Area Services Committee as well for feedback. And all that feedback was included. We did that study did an in-depth examination of all the existing park services and also looked at other regional park services. And from that, they kind of presented a proposed service framework that was presented to the CVRD board. In September of 2022, the service was actually established based on that background study. So in terms of like the participation, the service, the governance structure. So the governance structure, so everyone's aware, it's governed through the Regional Parks and Trails Service Committee. They have delegated authority, and that committee is made up of elected officials from each of the municipalities and each of the electoral areas. So there are 9 members that sit on that committee, 2 of which are from the town of Comox. There's 3 from the city of Courtenay, there's 1 from Cumberland, and there's 1 from each of the electoral areas. So that under that service too, there are specific voting rules. So in terms of acquisitions, you need to have a 75%, or in this case, 7 of 9 need to approve any acquisitions, and anything other than that is a 2/3 or 6 of 9 on all other matters. So then we kind of jumpstart into our strategic plan, which we started in 2023. And this is a little bit of the overview of the process. The phase 1, we gathered all our analysis, our initial input. So we got input from the Comox First Nation, from each of the local governments, key interest groups in conservation and outdoor recreation, and really, an emerging framework kind of developed from that. And we ended up with some draft directions, which we then brought out to the public for review. And from that, we ended up kind of confirming a vision, goals, and directions basically for the service. We then went into phase 3, did some more refining of the strategic plan, and then brought that back out to interest groups and local governments and the public for review again. And we ended up with our final plan where we are today. So now that we have it, what are they? And that's a bit of a recurring theme about what regional kind of parks are and how they fit into our park system as we have today. So what's the purpose? The easiest way is to maybe look at through the parkland spectrum. And you can see in orange, that's where the Regional Parks and Trails Service kind of sits. So in a broad area, we've kind of got our national parks, which are really large, kind of national. And then we go to our provincial parks, which are large, and they're kind of destinations for our for all BC residents. And that's funded through everyone that's in the province pays through provincial taxes. And they're usually large in size, conservation focus. On the other end, we got our community parks. So in the electoral areas, we have our own community park service, and each of the municipalities have their own community park service that they look after. So each of those is funded individually by each of the municipalities or the electoral areas. They tend to be smaller in area and they tend to focus on passive as well as active kind of recreation. And again, that's funded just by the residents of that particular area. And this regional park service, it's a distinct service. So it's its own separate service, and it's really there to complement the service spectrum that we have in place now to complement the community parks and complement the provincial parks that we have here. So the regional parks, they tend to be a little bit larger than community parks, but smaller than provincial parks. They tend to have a bit more of a conservation focus. They're destination for regional residents, and they're really supposed to be about regionally significant natural areas. So things for all of the region, and it's funded regionally. So whether you live in a municipality or you live in an electoral area, you're paying for this distinct service. So we'll jump into the highlights. I want to look at the goals, the objectives, and the actions. And I'll start with kind of the vision, and I'll just kind of read it off. In the next few slides, I'll kind of read. But the vision for the service is this. For thousands of years, the lands and waters of the Comox Valley have supported the Coast-Salish, the Kwak-Kwak, and the Petlash peoples. Our regional parks are the special natural landscapes of the Comox Valley that warrant ongoing conservation or protection. Our regional trails are the greenway connections between our communities that provide trails through natural surroundings and strengthen ecological and wildlife corridors. These are the places that connect us with nature, with ourselves, and with each other. Here we are in harmony with the natural world, and our relationship to the land and the waters is strengthened. Here, Indigenous rights and culture are honored. Way the plan is set up is the bullseye where the vision supports the goals support the objectives, and those objectives support the actions. So of the goals, there are 6 goals. First goal is to work together with Comox First Nation to plan and manage. The second one is to protect regionally significant natural areas. The third is to increase environmental and community connectivity. The fourth is to provide opportunities for nature-based recreation. The fifth is to strengthen stewardship and community partnerships. And lastly, to manage in a proactive and sustainable manner. Those actions led to 12 key objectives. I'll read those and then I'm kind of done with reading the slides. Promise you that. So the first one is the first 6 are kind of planning objectives, and then the other 6 are kind of more managing objectives. But the first objective under the planning is to work together with Comox First Nation. The second objective is to secure land for regional parks and trails. The third is to balance our conservation and our recreation interests. The fourth is to try to enhance regional connectivity. The fifth is to support the region's resilience and ecosystem services. Sixth is to provide high-value visitor experience. When we get to the managing, we're looking to develop a sustainable funding model. We want to manage staffing, operations, and assets proactively. We want to foster and strengthen partnerships. We want to develop policy procedure documents, build communications and awareness, and finally monitor and update the plan. So all that led to 64 actions, which obviously I'm not going to discuss here today, but it basically dives into each of those objectives and what we want to try to accomplish under each of those objectives. That also led to the plan also has an implementation plan that outlines the near-term objectives, the medium-term, the long-term, and objectives. So from that, what are our next steps is to work on implementing the strategic plan that we now have and we've worked so hard to produce. The first really key piece that we need to work on next is the land acquisition strategy. Without land, you really don't have service. So working on securing that piece, the land and the trails, and that'll involve working closely with the Regional Parks and Trails Committee and with our Comox First Nation partners. So on that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. And I know we really appreciated getting to that 7 of 9, 75% when it was being adopted back in 2022. So thank you for that. Can you highlight any like specific larger parks that may fall into that land acquisition strategy, or is it too early to kind of highlight specific action?
Yeah, at this stage, it's too early, and that's what we hope to kind of galvanize out of the land acquisition strategy. Through this strategic planning process, we garnered a lot of the areas of interest for people. So within the strategic plan, it kind of outlines some of the basic landscape types that are of interest to people. But we do have all this more detailed information that we accumulated from the public through the interest groups and from the local governments. And that's going to be kind of key information that we'll use as we start to build out the land acquisition strategy. But the hope is that eventually we have a document that's going to outline what are our key priorities that we want to acquire, what lands do we want to acquire, and how much is that going to cost, and how are we going to fund it?
Okay, thank you. I know it can be private in nature. Councillor Grant.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. I asked you this once before, but we were too early in the strategy to get a proper answer in it. But I'm just wondering if we had a park in the town of Comox, or a piece of property, I should say, in the town of Comox, could that be eligible to be a regional park?
Definitely, yes.
Other questions from council? Councillor Swift.
Thanks, Mark. It's exciting to see this coming together. You mentioned a sustainable funding strategy, and I'm wondering if, aside from taxation, are there any other thoughts about what that would look like?
Yeah, I think I think a key to this service is going to be partnerships. And I think the key is going to be us accumulating enough money to use as leverage to then access other forms of funding, whether that's federal, provincial funding, or even partnerships like the Comox Valley Land Trust, for example, that are good at raising money. So that will all get kind of flushed out through the land acquisition strategy.
Councillor Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to highlight and say thank you again, that being part of this committee has been really awesome. The vision, I feel really proud actually of where we got to with the vision. And I feel also like this is a really important service for the Comox Valley in terms of climate resilience. And one of my favorite words is the biodiversity and ecosystems health. So thank you for the great work.
Thanks.
Thanks for those comments. Any other questions from council while we have Mark and Kate online? Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very
And we
much.
appreciate the update on where things are at with the regional parks. Our next delegation is from Tracy Clark from the Comox Valley Chamber of Commerce to go over the Business Retention and Expansion Service Report. So welcome to Tracy and any members of the chamber in the audience. And you might have to turn back the mic. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for hosting myself, Executive Director of the Comox Valley Chamber of Commerce, here to share our update from our polling report. I also welcome our board chair, Ramon Ramirez, here in the audience in case there's questions at the end. All right, so as you know, we're partway through our business retention and expansion service project. And the purpose of this is to support the long-term business growth in the Comox Valley. We've identified key challenges and opportunities for innovation through extensive engagement with businesses in Courtenay and Comox. Today, I'll be running you through the summary of the engagement, as well as sharing some strategic recommendations that focus on addressing the challenges. We will be addressing the challenges through advocacy, education, relationship building, and a unified regional economic strategy. You recall last time I presented, we talked about a 4-stage plan. The top 2 stages have been achieved, and we're entering into the bottom 2 stages. When we did our poll, we reached participants through a multitude of ways: our website, social media, email, postcards, media relations, and a business walk. Some of the you counselors and mayor joined me as we went door to door, speaking directly with businesses to encourage participation in our poll. In order to develop a relevant poll, we consulted the business community directly, hosting 13 key businesses, governments, and nonprofit leaders. What we heard from that pre-polling workshop was that there's 4 pillars occurring in the business community: market challenges to explore, opportunities for growth and innovation, economic development, and advice for new or incoming businesses. First question on the poll was, are you a Chamber of Commerce member? And we did find that a lot of the folks that were engaging with us were already Chamber of Commerce members, indicating the trust that the business community has in the Chamber of Commerce. So let's get into the data. Let's find out what type of businesses responded to our poll. This indicates the response in business size. Most businesses we heard from are on the smaller side. Also, we noticed the longevity that the businesses were in operation. Well, this will indicate an a need for support for emerging businesses as well as businesses that have been here for quite a while. Ownership structure also ranged, and this will reflect that we will need to have varying levels of organizational resources and capacity. So we will offer tailored resources for different sizes of businesses. You can see that businesses contain a lot of diversity in the Comox Valley, but there's also opportunities to enhance equity and inclusion. I was surprised on the statistic, learning that most, over half of the businesses employ full-time employees, with less than half employing part-time or temporary employees. As well, you can see there's a range of revenue, which will lead us to offer tailored financial programs. Some people are seeking grants and funding, and some people are seeking opportunities and guidance on how to scale their business. We see a lot of businesses' target market is local or regional. Now that we know about the type of businesses that responded to our poll and that exist in the Comox Valley, we need to know how to help them, what they need, and what they're looking for. So to learn about what there is currently working well, we asked them their most effective marketing tools. So are you surprised that social media, website, and word of mouth are the most popular ways to reach their customers? Also, you might not be surprised by the answers here. They're looking for more training on social media marketing, how to find applicable grants, and support for artificial intelligence to improve business efficiency. There's also quite another range of business support that people are looking for. And this is one of the Chamber's strengths, is offering support in all these areas. For those that weren't already adopting technology, we were curious on which technologies they would be most interested in implementing, and we are ready to share tools with them on how to do so. So 40% of respondents were looking for increased support for digital marketing tools, as well as support on understanding how to use AI for business efficiency. We know what they want to learn, and we asked when they want to learn it, so that when we're offering our tailored programs, we get the best uptake. And the answer is all the time. Some people want to learn before work, some people would like to learn after, some people would like to learn virtually, and the Chamber will be delivering adaptable program delivery virtually and in person. Collaboration is one of the cornerstones of the Chamber of Commerce. We're curious if businesses felt the same. And these are the areas that they're most interested in collaborating with: networking, partnering for joint marketing campaigns, accessing group purchasing discounts, and also accessing associations or building on regional networks. What's hard for them? What are their challenges? This is what we discovered. The high cost of doing business was a major factor for folks out there, as well as workforce retention and recruitment, affordable housing, access to financing and grants. You'll see some common themes start to emerge. We know that people want to adopt technology, but what are the barriers for them? It might be the cost to implement versus business revenue. It might be that they don't know how to find the right technologies to help them. It might be that they just don't know what they don't know. So this again is where the Chamber shines. We have a vast network of experts in this area. We're happy to help people find the solutions. Sustainability is important for a lot of folks, but some also find barriers to accessing these. While we noticed that almost half the folks that responded were already adopting sustainable practices, there were some barriers in cost, or some saw just no competitive advantage to adopting sustainable practices. So this program can highlight the benefits of this, and this program can also advocate for stronger government incentives. We really want to make sustainability a viable option for all businesses. Workforce development was also an important factor that came up. So we were curious what challenges folks were encountering there. So they might not be able to find skilled candidates. They might have trouble offering competitive wages. Can their employees get to work? Can their employees afford to live here? These are major challenges for employers right now. How optimistic are folks? Do they plan to stay in Courtenay and Comox? The majority do. Do they plan to expand? A good number of them do. I was really pleased to see this result. The optimism locally is much higher than we see provincially and federally. Folks that were more optimistic for the future of their business, 59% locally versus provincially 43%, nationally 49%. So folks are feeling better about doing business in the Comox Valley than they are in the rest of the province. We asked an open-ended question. What specific changes or improvements would you like to see? Over and over again, we saw these 6 common themes emerging: streamlining process and reducing bureaucracy. So businesses were highlighting the need for simplified, faster processing, permitting, licensing, zoning, reducing red tape. And I would like to tip my hat to Comox staff and council for the efforts that you've done and are continuing to do in that department. Folks were also concerned about finding financial support when they needed it and enough. They were looking for financial assistance for small business, grants, tax incentives, lower property and lower commercial taxes were all on people's minds. You won't be surprised to hear that folks are looking for improved infrastructure and safety, safety and cleanliness specifically in downtown areas. Public infrastructure, parking, accessible transit, security measures. Folks want to have a safer environment for their customers and their staff. Also, not a surprise, housing and social issues. This came up again and again. We know there's a need for solutions to the homelessness crisis. We know that this crisis impacts business. We also know that businesses need appropriate housing for their staff. So these are all issues that are affecting business. Workforce development and attraction, we touched on that a couple of times today, but having it come up as one of the main 6 pillars in our open-ended question just underscores how important this is. Also, folks are really interested in promoting growth and tourism, attracting folks to downtown areas with better signage. And we also hear that they're interested in increased community engagement, increased events for them to attend with their families, public spaces, enhancing public spaces, and also collaboration across the board that they know will boost the local economy. I'll just give you a second to read some direct quotes that we heard from folks. Fun. So how are we going to go about supporting folks? There's quite a few ways that we can support folks. So hosting shop local and eat local events. We're already working hard on multiple campaigns there at the chamber. Organizing training and learning sessions for workforce development. We're putting out several workshops coming up soon on those subjects. Working with local governments to streamline regulatory processes. So we'll be chatting frequently about that. As well, folks were extremely interested in innovative regional collaboration and resource sharing initiatives. And again, educational resources, this time specifically for technology adoption. So we'll be delivering these in person, virtually, and all sorts of ways for folks to access these resources through the Chamber's supportive action plans. Examples of some of our upcoming workshops that are very near on the horizon: Bites and Insights, Breakfast with Purpose. So join us at the Chamber Business Hub for workshops every third Thursday monthly. We'll bring in different experts to speak while we enjoy breakfast together. And also coming up March 6th, our ever popular economic outlook this year, Strategies for a Changing Landscape, where we're bringing in experts to discuss the upcoming, the current trade disputes and the political uncertainty that's happening nationally. So Susan Mowbray, the chief economist for MNP, will come and give our keynote address. She'll address international trade policies, political changes, and how those affect the local economy. And our panel discussion experts are from the Faculty of Accounting, North Island College, the BC Shellfish Growers Association of BC, and Brady Callancy, the expert advisor from Export Navigator. So our economic outlook breakfast sells out every year. We hope that you guys can join us and hear from some experts. Accessible resources. So we are currently building an online resource library where we have recorded these workshops that we've shared with our members previously. So introduction to grant writing. We already knew that that was an important topic before the survey. So we've delivered that workshop. We've recorded it. We can share that. That will live in perpetuity on our website, as well as introduction to strategic planning. And any future webinars that we deliver will live for free on our website, accessible to anybody in the community. Responsive support. In 2024, we were able to innovate ways to support business. As you see on the top left, our ribbon cutting service, where we celebrate new and emerging businesses or milestone events. On the right, our inaugural employer symposium, again, filling the ballroom at Crown Isle. And this year we addressed innovations in the workforce. So AI and efficiencies in the workforce was already addressed in October of this year. And on the bottom left, you can see a workshop in progress at the Chamber Business Hub, our new office. Advocacy, another pillar of what the Comox Valley Chamber does. We regularly get folks together to bridge the gap between elected officials and the business community. We'll continue to do so on a regular basis. Why the Chamber? Why is the Chamber strong? Why is the Chamber the answer for community economic development? Well, our attendance for our events averages 80%. We either sell them out or we get closed. The response rate on this business poll alone shows us that folks are engaged with the Chamber and they trust the Chamber to be the voice of and for business. We also do advocacy very well locally, nationally, and provincially. And we're a community collaborator. We're invited to many tables participating in regional strategy development with nonprofits, businesses, and government groups. The Chamber is a Board of Trade. We're registered under the Board of Trade Act, and thus we must represent the interest of all the businesses in our community. We're not limited to a specific sector or a specific area. And lastly, we've been a trusted part of the Comox Valley for 106 years. We know that a regional strategy is very effective in delivering this approach: access to broader markets, unified voice for advocacy. And we also know that a micro-local approach would limit opportunities and would possibly create fragmentation. And another quote here. So the project budget stays the same, with the Comox contribution being 35% of shared project costs, broken down there for 2025 and 2026 numbers. There is interest currently from the Village of Cumberland to hop on as a third partner. So if that is the case, then this number will be adjusted to share the cost 3 ways. I know I've definitely used my 10 minutes. I do have a plan about the tariffs.
You can go another minute or two if that's
Okay,
okay.
thank you. All right, so in good times, the Chamber is here to help. Unfortunately, in tough times, this is where the Chamber shines as well. So I was able to put together a plan in response to any trade disputes that may be coming on the horizon. And it's a 5-part plan. So we're starting off with a business survey where we find out exactly who is affected by the tariffs, whether that's through procurement or through exporting. And there are 6 audiences for this plan. So the general public will mobilize consumers with a Love Local campaign, a video series where we can educate the public on effects of tariffs, and also a take action toolkit where we will provide templates for letters for people in the community to advocate to change for all levels of government. We'll also focus on businesses, outreach, story collection, our rapid response poll, find out who's affected and how. We'll tell stories about how those folks are affected and how the effects of any trade disputes will affect pricing, operations, and employment. We'll also get our experts working on some tariff response webinar series. Municipal council, this is where we can work together. Council briefings, so we'll brief each other and find some resolutions that will support the business community. Economic impact reports. This is where the chamber will share data with you so that you can make informed decision making. And also we can collaborate together on some buy local initiatives. Provincial and federal levels will activate our network there as well. Lobbying for tariff impact mitigation funding, lobby to encourage interprovincial trade barrier elimination, and encouraging folks to switch where they can from US to Canadian suppliers for procurement. And then activating our national and provincial chamber network as a chamber alliance develops on tariff response. Again, collaborative work on reducing the interprovincial trade barriers, and also just to share data and best practices. So thank you for allowing me to share our responsive plan to any trade disputes and to demonstrate why the chamber is a great source of support for the business community.
Thanks, Tracy. And thanks for that added last couple slides on the current events happening right now. Questions from council? We have Councillor Haslett.
Thanks, Tracy. Were there any surprises that you had from the business walks on the information that jumped out?
I didn't have any surprises per se. I know that folks were always happy when we go and engage with them directly. Did you hear any surprises when you were visiting folks door to door?
Not really, but I mean, you touched on a lot more businesses than that. So.
Yeah, no, I find that when you visit businesses in person, it makes a huge difference. To just when you're showing up, it shows that you care, and it allows them to share things that they might be holding back on or might not feel brave enough to take directly to council. So I think that engagement is really important. And I'm hoping to have an opportunity to continue business walks where we share this data. We have a little one-pager that we've made, so we can share this directly with folks in business walks. And there's no expiry date on that. We're doing this work over some time, so you're all invited to join me.
And then, do you happen to have a breakdown of the percentage of the Comox businesses that were hit that made up the numbers of the information that kind of pulled in here?
Percentage of Comox versus other businesses?
How many Comox businesses were hit versus or here?
No, it was only Courtenay and Comox. So the first question of the poll was, are you doing business in Courtenay or Comox? And then we went from there. We didn't break it down regionally or micro.
Thank you. We have Councillor Mayer, and then we'll go to Councillor Kerr. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you're working with the Comox BIA, or what your plans might be in working together as you turn toward implementation. That's my first question, and then I have a second question.
Yeah, we're always happy to collaborate. Collaboration is one of the cornerstones of the Comox Valley Chamber, and we do reach out regularly to the BIA to collaborate, and we're looking forward to future opportunities. They have some intricate knowledge of the Comox district as well as the Courtenay BIA, so coming together as a unified voice is very important to us, and I look for opportunities to do that.
Thank you. Turning towards more of that broader economic resilience discussion, you talked about kind of turning to Canadian suppliers, are you also looking at regional supply networks, or is that a little bit beyond your scope?
No, I think tapping into the regional supply network is a great idea because the more business we can get regionally, it just makes us stronger. So yeah, we'll be tapping into all the supply networks and activating the entire network locally, regionally, and nationally.
Thank you.
Counselor Carr.
Hi, Tracy. Thanks so much. Looking forward to doing some business walks with you. I sent you a couple dates and times for next week, so
Okay,
hopefully
great.
that matches up. Quick question about the red tape question that came up. So people use that term differently. What is red tape? Curious if you know from the businesses, if there was some more detail in the survey, what that means. Is that time to get a business license from the town or city? Or is it something else that they mean that we could help expedite?
Yeah, there's so many examples of this in our open-ended answers. So it ranged from time to get their business off the ground, struggles with not knowing the process or reaching barriers that they didn't know existed. So streamlining the process to get businesses to just start is one thing, but also we heard a lot about development barriers. So we know that Comox is catching up at a rapid rate to what the development community needs. And we know the rest of the community is working on that as well. So I can share some more direct answers to your question through email.
Counselor Haslett.
You'd mentioned with respect to the tariffs in the last couple of slides there that Chamber's got obviously a big network and there's some opportunity for lobbying in that. When we did our business walk, I spoke to you a little bit about that CFIB, who I do work with. That's I think it's the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. And one of the things in their pitch to me that they kind of talked a lot about was the ability to lobby for small businesses as well as they have a substantial amount of oversight. Probably salary or pay or whatever it is, but I'm just wondering, do you also touch base with groups like that? Are you ever in contact with them? I just think, in a time right now where, depending on what happens in the South, it can really affect a lot of businesses, more people fighting for Canadian businesses, helps, especially with small businesses that have a big chance of failure in the town.
Yeah, I agree. I think the time for CFIB and the chambers to work together is now more than ever. So I appreciate the contact that you shared with me. And I look forward to making that relationship grow. Earlier today, I was at a leaders meeting with our MP, our many chambers from the region, First Nations leaders, mayors, and we'll be meeting regularly, weekly, if not bi-weekly, throughout the whole process. So we're very tapped into that network. And we'll be continuing to leverage that network.
Counselor Grant.
Yeah, hi Tracy, thanks. That was really good. I'm not sure if Chris asked this or not, but were the numbers that we got tonight just for Comox, or was it a mix of Comox and Courtenay? And I ask that because our communities are quite similar sometimes, but in other ways we're quite different. And to know that what we're hearing is our community is really helpful to us.
Yeah, it was a mix and I tried to tailor, so I'm actually also presenting to Courtney. So I tried to tailor the data where I could, Courtney's presentation will be slightly different from yours. So where I could see that the information could be attributed to Comox businesses, that was shared.
Would it be possible to get that one page kind of follow up with the 6 things that would be good for us to follow up? So when we're having just kind of individual run-ins with businesses, we can keep that conversation going. So anything provided for our toolkit as things get created is super helpful.
Okay, definitely. I think your staff has a copy of this as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. To council. Thank you. Other questions from council online? Okay, well, thank you so much, Tracy, for presenting where things are at. We look forward to doing future business walks, and congratulations on the Chamber Awards. It was a great success.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to be celebrating 50 years of excellence awarded in the business community. And we look forward to more. Appreciate your time today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to our third delegation. We have Alex, Executive Director of D'Estaire Senior Center Association, for a thank you and annual report presentation. So we'll welcome up Alex. Nope. We may have got that wrong.
We've changed it
Apologies,
around a
Susan.
little bit.
Welcome.
Thank you. I don't have a PowerPoint and I'm feeling lacking. Those were lovely PowerPoints, weren't they? Just beautiful. But we won't be very long today. My name is Susan Torsdal. I'm the Vice President on the board of D'Estaire Senior Center. And with me today are quite a few other board members and our new board director. So I would like to introduce them quickly. We have Myrna Holman, who's our new president. Myrna, can you stand up so that they can see you? Yes. Raymond Morin, who's our past president. You all know Raymond. Julie Spooner, who's our treasurer. Julie, wave. Lois Higgins, who's our secretary. I think you all know Lois. And then we have our directors, Ellie Clark, Peggy Rasmus, Barbara Havers, Jim Cooper, Jim. And then finally, we do have our executive director way back there, Alex Yeager. So first of all, thank you to Mayor and Council for receiving our delegation this evening. We won't take long, but I would be remiss if I didn't start off right away by telling you how thankful we are to have Councillor Chris Haslett on the town rep on our board. Chris has been incredibly supportive. He assists us with protocol, and he really brings some interesting perspective to our discussions. So we're really delighted to have him. He takes the role of his role as counselor very seriously. I think he respects that. He never misses our meetings, or rarely does, responds immediately if we have questions. And I think he really loves Comox. So we are not here this evening to make a request. Rather, we are here to thank you. The town supports D'Estaire and thus seniors through providing us with a lovely building right next door. You give us tax exemptions. And last year, of course, you supported our request to hire with a grant and aid to hire our new executive director. So I want to share a little bit about our new ED with you. We hired Alex in June of last year, and we were really fortunate to get a really nice match to our position requirements. Alex was the executive director of the Elder Active Recreation Association in Whitehorse in the Yukon. So he comes to us with lots of experience in working with seniors. And at that organization, he was accountable for the planning, the leading, the evaluating, and basically the operation of the organization. So we really scored big when we got Alex. He has a specialized honors Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology and Health Science. And he is currently working on his Master's of Business Administration in Executive Management at Royal Roads. So he's a busy man, very busy. Now there's a downside. And this is strictly my perspective. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but Alex lives in Courtenay. What can I say? We just can't have it all. But seriously, since Alex has joined us, we have seen sea changes in our organization. We currently have a handle on our health and safety issues, which is so critical when you're dealing with seniors or anyone. We are streamlining our processes and our procedures. We've modernized some of our systems already. And perhaps most importantly for the board, it has allowed us to get on with our long-term planning and our financial forecasting. As you know, when you are busy firefighting day-to-day operations like we were as a board, you didn't have time for that. You didn't have time to get on with the strategic thinking, planning, and decision-making. So with the addition of Alex, that's made a huge difference to us. So I just want to say a little bit more about our partnership with the town and how much we value it. You provide us with support, and we really do our very best to serve a growing part of the Comox population, seniors. And there's lots of us around these days, you may have noticed. Every time I go to Hughes Independent, I'm just amazed. I think everybody's in here is a senior. So we are out and about, there's lots of us. And we demand opportunities, especially the baby boomers. You know, we figure we gotta have that. So we're looking for opportunities to engage in health and in wellness and in activities and in social activities as well. And not only that, we vote. We take that civic responsibility very seriously. So please tell the voters what you do for us, because I don't hear that. Whenever I've been to an all candidates meeting or anything, I never hear what Comox does for seniors. And you help us. You do. You care about your seniors, and you do that. You don't just wax poetic, you do that in a very tangible way by supporting us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm now just going to turn it over to our new board president, who will say a few words in closing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. That's very eloquent.
Thanks, Susan. I'm Myrna, I'm the president, and when I joined the senior center about a year ago, I wondered, what the heck am I gonna find there? I wasn't looking for a lounge. I was looking for a very active place, and then I got pulled onto the board. So it's been a pleasure to do that. What I found was that the directors that were there, because we didn't have an executive director, they were doing free part-time work. Many of them carried a load like a part-time and some full-time work to run the center. So having an executive director, as Susan has said, means that board members can be board members and not working part-time jobs for free. And it's been exceptional. We're not your average senior center. I just want to focus on that for a sec, that we know things will change. We know the town of Comox is planning. We know we may not always be in that building, but I think to keep in mind what distinguishes us. So like I said, we don't want a lounge for seniors. We want a place to be active, and we have space for classes. We have space for meetings, a pub night on Friday, if you're interested. But very uniquely, we have all these clubs and workshops. So we have a glass shop. We have kilns for glass. We have people doing beautiful stained glass work. We have a wood shop with all kinds of equipment for woodworking. We have a pottery area. So we have beautiful big kilns and people doing pottery. We have a silversmith area. Again, space and tools to do silversmithing. We have a quilting area with lots of machines and a big quilting thing that I don't quite understand. But that's partly who we are. And I hope as we're planning into the future, that you'll engage us and talk to us and remember that all of our members love all of those things. They're kind of sacred to D'Astaire. All those clubs, all those spaces, all that equipment is really, really important. So if you haven't been over, or even if you have, if you'd like to come and have a tour, let Alex know, let me know. We will provide you breakfast or lunch because it's delicious. Our cook day is remarkable, and we keep our prices down with our grants. And again, we really, really appreciate your support. And one more thing I did want to say, the construction has been brilliant. The communication, top notch. We've been able to talk to our members about what's going on, and your people out front, whoever they are, please thank them, because they walk us across, they treat us like royalty. It's been real, and they make sure everybody can get across. So we really appreciate it. We really appreciate your support, and we know you do a lot for us. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just have someone stay at the mic just in case we have any questions. We may or may not, but I haven't heard top notch in construction in quite a while. So thank you. Thank you for that. And we really do appreciate the communications over the last couple years at least with Raymond, and the new ED coming on has been really fantastic. So thank you for that two-way communication and respect. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you for the newsletter which we received and your AGM information in March for the public. We have Councillor Hazlitt, and then I'll go around the table to see if there's any questions.
Thanks very much, Susan and Myrna. It's no secret here. I've been a strong champion for the Stair Center. It's a great organization. They offer great affordable programming for the community, as well as a place for quite a few members of the town to go and really feel welcome. One of the biggest things I've noticed in the last 8 months since Alex has taken over as executive director is the noticeable change on the board. You know, they were a really strong working board and they did a lot of work. And it was easy to see early on how much time was being put into that. And since Alex has come on, it's been really good to see that the board's been able to step back a little bit, not only focus on being members, but if they've been there for quite a while as a director, they were able to kind of step back. And also it seems from where I sat a little bit easier to start bringing in new directors with new skill sets and new ideas on where to take the center. So I really appreciate working with you and I look forward to everything that's coming in the future.
Thanks, Councillor Hazlitt. Other questions from council? Councillor Swift.
I don't have a question, but I just would like to say thank you for coming tonight and reporting out to us. This was a new expenditure for us and we're always looking for ways of cutting money. So when we decide to spend money, we like to know that it's being put to good use and it sounds like it's really working well for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council for D'Astaire? Well, thank you again for coming tonight and reporting back. That's always really nice. And thanks to Lois for your continued great food at the cafe. We encourage people to check out the restaurant. We'll just take about 30 seconds and then we'll move on to the next delegation here in about 30 seconds. So you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to quietly depart. And we're not getting started yet, but I will ask if Darcy Walters to talk about short-term rental hosting wants to slowly come up to the mic. You're welcome to, but we're not starting quite yet, but you're welcome to come on up. Actually stand-up comedy here. No. Hey, welcome to Darcy Walters. We're going to talk about the short-term rental policy for Comox, and then we'll possibly have some questions for you after. Thank you for coming. You just have to press the button until it's red so those online can hear you. Okay. Thanks,
So
Darcy.
good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Darcy Walters, and I'm one of several hosts here who operate short-term rentals in Comox within the property of their principal residence in the basement suite, carriage house, or coach house. We are requesting that council consider a bylaw for short-term rentals in the town of Comox. As you are aware, in late 2023, the BC government announced effective May 1st, 2024, provincial principal resident requirement in some areas of the province, which limits short-term rentals to a home where a host lives for a longer period of time and in the year than any other place, plus one secondary suite or accessory dwelling unit on the same property. This aim was to ban investment properties from being rented out for any period under 90 days and limited hosts from having multiple rentals available on short-term rental platforms. But it also tasked local governments to develop bylaws and short-term rentals. For many of the communities like Comox, this added to an already heavy workload and was pushed to the side of the desk and with a wait-and-see approach. To strengthen this new government regulation, additional restrictions were made clearer in 2024. This saw the development of a BC registry for short-term rentals to be in effect May 1st, 2025. In order to complete BC registry applications, hosts have to provide a business license number. We as hosts are unable to provide a business license from the town of Comox because language has yet to be written for the provision of short-term rentals. Without a business license, all short-term rentals in Comox will be taken down as of June the 1st, 2025. The town of Comox does have language for bed and breakfast rentals, and we are requesting the council amend the bed and breakfast bylaw to include short-term rentals or develop a bylaw specific for short-term rentals, which includes one rental on a primary residence property. Guests stay in Comox for a variety of reasons. We have amazing outdoor activities. They come to visit family and especially elderly parents at Gerwick, Providence Living, and Stevenson Place. They shop for real estate. They attend the festivals like Nautical Days, Music Fest, and Philbrook Festival. They seek winter getaways from colder regions in BC and Canada. They vacation to explore our beautiful community. And there's work-related stays, including doctors, traveling nurses, and hospital technicians. There's accommodations during renovations and restorations, and medical appointments and services. Comox is a very popular destination. In Comox, we have one hotel, Port Augusta Inn. A healthy community needs a balance of homeowners, long-term rentals, hotels, motels, apartments, and short-term rentals. Our guests and short-term rental hosts provide an economic boost to the community. Guests dine out at our Comox restaurants. They're out in the community, shopping, golfing, skiing, visiting local wineries and distilleries, to name just a few activities they do. As hosts, we shop locally for goods and services necessary to operate a successful short-term rental, such as window cleaning, landscaping, other trades, groceries, and cleaning supplies. We promote Comox as a great place to live, dine, visit, and explore. Hosts use the revenue generated from the short-term rentals for a variety of reasons. To offset mortgage payments, fund their children's post-secondary education, supplement government pensions, assist with children's mortgages, and pay property taxes. The short-term rentals in Comox are not party houses. This is our primary residence. We live on that property. We're a short-term rental. We offer more of a home-like environment than a hotel room. We have A and B designations in place and pay extra utility fees. Short-term rentals are offered on booking platforms such as Airbnb and VRBO. These platforms run on a mutual accountability system whereby guests evaluate the suite and the hosts rate the guests in an open, public manner. This leads to a mutual respect for the property and the neighborhood. We monitor guests' on-site activities to ensure compliance with the household rules and respect for the neighborhood. We are individuals who are trying to follow the provincial regulations, but have been abruptly excluded because we are unable to obtain a business license. Both my wife and I, like others, are enjoying the hosting experience and are very proud to welcome the guests to the Comox and the surrounding area. We are great ambassadors for the area. We have provided you with links to examples of short-term rental languages from the Village of Cumberland, the town of Oliver. And the third example is from the city of Penticton, which permits short-term rentals and is presently amending its official community plan and zoning bylaws to implement the provincial requirements. The fourth example is a staff report dated April 24th, 2024 from the city of Courtenay on the proposed definitions in short-term rentals. At that April 24th meeting, council will approve the recommendation to direct staff to prepare the amending bylaws to business licensing, zoning, and municipal ticketing information to address Bill 35 short-term rental accommodation act. As mentioned, this has become a time-sensitive matter because the province of BC now requires all short-term rental hosts to register their property by May the 1st. However, in the BC government website, and I provided the link in the presentation that I've emailed out, under the heading Local Government Business License, it noted that until June the 1st, 2025, hosts in the community listed below can submit proof of applying for a business license instead of providing a copy of that license when registering. This temporary option is available because these communities have recently introduced or updated short-term rental business license programs. These hosts must upload a copy of their business license to their registration dashboard by August the 1st, 2025, or their registration will be taken down or canceled. Proof of application for a business license will be accepted by the following 17 business communities. And I've listed those 17 communities in the electronic presentation that was distributed. Once a decision has been made to go forward with a short-term rental bylaw, language can be borrowed from existing policy, eliminating the need to start from scratch. There may be an opportunity for Comox to get on that previously mentioned list of communities developing short-term rental business license programs. Or as an alternative, Comox could allow short-term rental owners to apply for a temporary business license that would be granted without prejudice to bridge the time between now and when an official bylaw can be passed. We hope our explanation of who we are, what we do, why we do it, has been made clear, why we need language in a timely manner. Thank you. If you have any questions, I can answer them now. If you think of anything later, you can contact me. Also, there's a link at the very bottom to the City of Courtney's council meeting on April 24th. April 24th. And the discussion about the short-term rental starts at 1 hour and 8 minutes into the meeting.
Thanks, Darcy, and thanks for providing such detailed information. It's helpful to have kind of the spectrum of details provided in advance. So before I go to council, I will just update staff has a report on short-term rentals because of these deadlines coming to us in the next month. So if anyone's going to ask staff what that might look like, there is a report coming in the next 30 days because of Darcy and a couple other inquiries from town, other residents that say we don't have kind of this area covered in our current bylaws. So that is coming in the upcoming 30 days for all of us to ponder. Questions from council around the table?
Well, that sounded like somebody who stood up at the podium before. It's like, so you and I have spoken about this a little bit. So I guess my question would be more for Jordan, and that is, and we do have a report coming, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know what it says, but I'm just wondering if there's something we can do in the short term to get this over the hump for May and then build the plan out later. Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, council have the option of looking at doing a very light touch regulation this year. It may be something that council wants to move forward with and not get into regulating the short-term rental industry within the town of Comox beyond what the province has brought in. But all those options will be in front of you here when the report comes either at the next meeting or the following regular council meeting. And again, you can look to simply allow short-term rentals across the town of Comox, which has functionally been the practice the past number of years underneath the provincial guidelines. You can get into discussions around this year where you want to have them and where you don't, or you can look to adopt something quickly now and then discuss further regulations moving into the future. So all those options will be on the table.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Kerr.
Thanks, Darcy, for the presentation. Very good. Question for staff then, is one of the considerations for us so as not to like lose housing permanently to, you know, open the floodgates to, like say, full houses and units being turned into short-term rentals. Much like Darcy, he has, you know, it's the secondary suite and lives on the property. Is there language that we could include or maybe for in the staff report options for us to consider where we permit short-term rentals in owner-occupied homes with secondary units as opposed to, you know, a whole street being turned into short-term rentals and then losing housing options for our community? Thanks.
Yeah, the minimum regulation now is that the short-term rentals need to be within a principally occupied dwelling. So we couldn't make the change to allow it to be more permissive than that. What council is going to need to look at is whether you'd like to have it more restrictive. I believe in Cumberland, they restricted short-term rentals to within a certain radius of their downtown. And there's lots of other ways that it can be done. You can restrict the number of licenses that you give out. You can increase the cost of the business license for this specific operation to try and restrict the number. And that is if council wants to get into restriction of of the short-term rentals beyond what the province has put in. So those are the discussions that council is going to need to have. And again, you can look into developing the full program this year, or you can look into allowing it this year and then amending it into the future. With the regulations that the province has brought in, there's a continuous requirement for short-term rentals to seek the approval of the local government in order to continue to operate, because you need that business license, which needs to be renewed every year.
Other questions around the table or online? Councillor Grant.
Yeah, after hearing the seniors talk about speeding up and getting rid of red tape, how long would, like, let's say we brought something in 2 weeks from now. How long, if somebody came to apply, would it be before they could start operating? Is it as soon as you get your business license, and how long does that take?
The business license application only takes about a week. It could be longer if we're really slow, but a business license application is not what would be slow in this process. What will be slow in this process is if you do not already have a legalized suite. That would be a longer process, because then you need the building inspector to come and check it out and legalize it. But if you have a legalized suite within your principal dwelling, getting a business license won't take too long.
Any other questions from council? Otherwise, we will wait to see that report either in 2 weeks or the first meeting in March. So your delegation was very timely, and we will see where that goes in March.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're moving on to page 11 for adoption of regular council meeting minutes for January 15th, 2025 to be adopted. That's been moved and seconded. Friendly reminder to use your mics. Any questions or comments on the January 15th? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to page 19, we have the Strategic Planning Committee meeting minutes for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 to be received.
Move. Second.
Any questions or comments on the Strategic Planning Committee meeting from January 22nd? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. On page 20, we have the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to move items 1 through 19 as a group?
Move. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of receipt of 1 through 19? All those in favor? Opposed? And those are received. Any items, if council would like to pull a number, you just have to have a seconder for discussion. We have Councillor Swift and then Councillor Kerr. Councillor Swift.
Thank you. I'd like to pull item number 9.
Second.
Thank you. This is the one about the Anderton Bolt pedestrian crossing. And I know we've had correspondence regarding this intersection before. And I recently had an experience when I was going up Anderton, and it was dusk. And there was somebody standing there, and I did not see them. And I'm just wondering if there is anything we can do to highlight that intersection with more lighting or something.
I'll go over to CAO Wall and Drew to stop.
We currently have it in the 5-year proposed financial plan to install the pedestrian activated lights in year 2029.
So is there any possibility of speeding that up?
Just council direction and we can do it. So this will be, if it's scheduled for 2029, it will be in the capital budget that we submit to you on the 19th. And if council wishes to move forward, it would just be a motion at that meeting to have us do it this year or next year, whatever your preference is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on number 9 on that crossing? Okay, potentially can be brought up next meeting. Councillor Kerr.
Great, and I'll second your motion that night, Councillor Swift. Numbers 10 to 19, which deal with the same issue. I just have a bit of an update.
That's been moved and seconded. That's on the Sani dump refit. An update would be great.
Comox pump station refit. Yeah, not a Sandy dump.
Apologies. That
That
I
would,
did know that.
that wouldn't fly.
That was a misspeak. Thank you.
Just a quick update. I spoke with one of the residents in Jane Place today, and more importantly, we had a meeting this morning, the Sewage Commission leadership and the Sewage Commission CVRD staff, senior staff. And we discussed this issue in some detail. Just an update to any Jane Place or neighborhood residents that are watching this meeting. 3 design options have been developed that incorporate community feedback, and the community actually just submitted today their own idea for design, which is beautiful. So the CVRD staff are going to take that feedback. There is an important meeting, community engagement meeting on February 20th down at the Sale Buildings here at the Marina. So I encourage anyone that has interest in this to attend. And it's been great to see the feedback between staff and engagement with staff and residents on this issue. And I hope for a good solution. So mark your calendars, February 20th, Sale Buildings. Thanks.
What time is that at, Councillor Kerr? February 20th at?
Sorry, I don't have the time, but
Okay, February 20th.
everyone in, do you know the time? 5 o'clock, and all the residents will have received a letter and will probably get another one about it.
Sounds like a good democratic process of coming together for a solution, hopefully. Any other items 1 through 19, Councillor Grant?
I'll do number 7.
Second.
So that's the one about parking at the Lions Club. And I'm just wondering, is that got to do with the road construction and the employees or the workers on the road parking there? Is that what's causing this?
I'll go over to staff, but I think it's more complex as it's kind of right in the middle of our downtown.
I think it's just a general parking issue. It might be exacerbated right now, but I think when the conveyance project moves on, this concern will probably still be there.
Yeah, I think it's something that we're gonna have to really keep at the top of our mind, because as we grow out and if we grow to what the province is telling us we have to, this is gonna become a bigger and bigger problem as we go. So I think it's just something we need to really put some thought to as we move forward.
Thanks for those comments. Any discussion further on that item? Councillor Swift.
Yeah, I can remember the people in Quadra Gardens some years ago coming and complaining about parking. And I think this is what's happening there. I think that letter indicated there was overflow from that development into their commercial parking. So I was just wondering if we could put up some signs. I know there's probably a single sign, but I'm thinking of signs at the stalls, just as a reminder that it's for those buildings, or for those buildings.
I believe we had a complaint before and I went over in person and there's quite a few signs. We had just put some new signs up 6 months ago. I think it's more compliance of signs. And then the other issue is that parking lot is empty a lot of the time, so that it creates too much opportunity to park there because of it. So I have no comments on this one, CAO Wall.
Yeah, and then just getting into enforcement, it is almost impossible for our staff to know when somebody's parked there. Are they parked there as part of the groups? Are they not? We can work with the 2 groups and see if they want to develop a parking pass system, and then we can maybe look at that. But I envision there being problems. Somebody parks there, they didn't have a pass, they're supposed to, we write a ticket. It's, I think maybe these groups can maybe support their own initiatives by just leaving a polite letter on somebody's car, letting them know that, hey, that you parked here and we tried to use it and we couldn't. I think for the most part, that would probably help take care of quite a bit of the issue.
So will there be any conversation then from us making those kinds of suggestions?
Yeah, we can reach out to them.
Well, I'm wondering also if, and I meant to walk by there today on the way in, and I didn't, but is there an opportunity to paint off a couple of parking spots and say Lions Club on them so that they're designated for that group?
Yeah.
We run into this at our office all the time. It's a daily pain in the ass, to be honest with you. It goes on, and there doesn't seem to be a really good solution, but if you could signify a couple of parking spots for the group, that might help. I don't know.
And the other question is, do we just let them manage it independently with their own, system? because we'd have to manage it if it's our own parking signs and system. I'll go to CAO Wall, sorry.
Yeah, we can do anything like that. But I think just to reiterate the point that was made earlier, this problem is going to get worse in the downtown as we see more development there, and we don't anticipate more parking spots coming. So we're going to be densifying the area and potentially losing a significant amount of parking in the downtown in the near future. And these types of problems are going to be pretty persistent for ever, actually.
Some parking. Counselor Mayor.
Didn't we have like a parking strategy on one of our to-do lists, or was that with the, I just can't remember where it was, but to me, that because we identified a whole bunch of different things that we thought we could do that can help, and then I'm just actually I can't remember. That.
It is still on the list of things to do, and as much as I don't want to downplay the complaints around parking in the downtown, because I know they are real. At the end of the day, for the most part, what we're talking about is people are having to park and walk a little bit. It's not that there's no parking, it's that there's no parking immediately adjacent to where people want to go, which 5-10 years ago wasn't the case. But it is the case now, and there is not, I don't think there's anything council can do to change the fact that from this point forward, being able to park adjacent to where you want to be is going to be a luxury rather than an expectation.
So is that building, is that a strata building? Or do we just own the whole thing? Because if there's a strata council, what they do at our building anyways, they put this onto the strata and then they figure it out. And they can't figure it out, but that's how they do it.
It's our building. And I mean, that's the other thing for council to consider as well. It's our building, our lot, and if the general public is using it, is that something you want to get into restricting, right? The tenants that we have in that building aren't revenue generators for the most part. So it's really up to council. We can work with them to develop a solution to this, which would be to develop a parking pass system and have our bylaw out there ticketing people that aren't there when they're, or that are there when they're not supposed to be. And we can do that, but is that really the path that council wants to walk down?
You can get a parking maid. Paid parking, first paid parking. I'm kidding. Any other comments around that? It doesn't sound that there's no like definitive action we would take on this outside the discussion. So it depends on if everyone is okay with that. I'm okay with leaving it at that and seeing how things go in the future. If there's no staff action, we'll leave it at that. I just want to pull out quickly traffic on Glacier View at Comox Ave and Fountain Road. Seconded. I just wanted to make a quick comment that the previous chief Price reached out and Modi did end up lowering the speed limit on their portion to 40, which took about a year of people requesting because Courtney lowered it to 40, Comox lowered it to 40. And then finally Modi along the Comox First Nations portion. So it's only one item of the list of things that's kind of been requested in that area, but it's one of the bigger things that we thought would take the longest time. So that's good. Traffic is now 40 along that kind of second route during conveyance project. That's not supposed to be a second route. So I just wanted to share that Comox was very happy that we all worked together, Comox First Nation, to get that done. Any other items to pull out 1 through 19? Okay, so we're moving along to Comox, unfinished business. We have the past presentation there for a Comox BIA Business Retention and Expansion Program protocol with the item summary from the presentation. There's a staff recommendation that the presentation from the BIA be received. Please use mics, everybody. Moved.
I'll
Thank
move
you.
that.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the recommendation to receive? Councillor Grant.
Yeah, so we had a presentation from the BIA and then we had a update from the chamber today. Both of them are trying to vie for the same job here. And I'm wondering if we receive this, is that the end of it and we just leave it? Or is there going to be some further decision made on this?
I believe the further decision will come during the first budget discussion on what we want to look at doing for the BRE, but I'll go over to CAO Walt to comment. I believe tonight is just to receive the past report and not get into the actual either or
Yeah.
until budget time, but I'll go over to CAO Walt.
Yeah, so this won't be coming as part of your budget package. What would come as part of the budget package that staff is presenting to you is just the cost. The cost between these two proposals is generally equal. What you will have at the next meeting, which is your budget meeting, is the chamber's presentation will be part of your unfinished business. So whether you want to take it up now, whether you want to take it up in the future, or whether you don't want to take it up at all, I guess is up to council. So you have the opportunity tonight, you have the opportunity at your next meeting. If council doesn't take any direction on this, the administration will continue with the direction that we have so far, which is the agreement that we entered into with the chamber.
Yeah, so, I mean, being the fact that we have two different groups wanting to do pretty much the same thing, or roughly the same thing, I don't think it's the right time to make a decision tonight, but certainly in the next few weeks, we should put our heads to this and figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah, being that the presentation is definitely in front of us, we'll have to make the decision. My comfort level is seeing kind of where the budget looks and what the numbers look like for those tax rates first before we get into what we can possibly do. Is there any other comments on timing for this discussion from the group tonight, or just comments in general about this item that we're receiving? Councillor Kerr.
This is a tricky one. I'm wondering if there's been any suggestion that the chamber and the BIA collaborate on a joint proposal. Because putting us in the position to pick one or the other is challenging. We want to have obviously strong relationships with both organizations. So and there's good arguments on either side, regional approach versus local approach. And so I'm not sure that I'll ever get to a point of having enough information to just pick one, because I want to pick them both. So either we split the budget or have them collaborate or something. Anyways, my question is, have we explicitly asked that they collaborate on a joint venture to do this? Thanks.
Just from my perspective, I think we've encouraged collaboration, but we basically went into a 3-year agreement with the chamber on this first, and then the BIA came forward and said, we also want to engage in this kind of work. So kind of there was a step 1 and step 2. So that makes it hard for us to go back and say, this is something we'd want to see a joint proposal on, because we're already 4 months into a contract. So I don't know if CAO Wall wants to comment on the level of encouragement of collaboration, or you can shake your head no.
You could get into something like that, but at the end of the day, council, you are going to be paying one or both of these organizations for the provision of specific services. So a joint proposal would be, one organization providing part of the BRE program for X amount of dollars, and the other organization providing another part of the BRE for X amount of dollars. I don't know that will solve the issue for you, but it's possible to split the BRE up that way and give some to one and some to another, but it will be you giving some money to one group and some money to another, or all the money to one group and getting them to subcontract some of the work to another. And it's not a big dollar amount. We're talking about $30,000 a year, I think. So splitting that up, pardon? Oh, 30 down to 13 first year. I think I might be thinking of the overall budget shared between both us and Courtney. So if it's 12,000 for Comox only, you're not talking about a lot of dollars to be split up between one organization or another. I think I mentioned this last time. I think you're going to have to choose one group or the other for this provision. And this is not terribly uncommon across municipalities to have to make these sorts of decisions. The two type of funding are your visitor center funding and your BRE programs. And the local nonprofits through your BIA or your local economic development associations or your chambers often vie competitively for those monies, and the decisions end up being political, and it often does result in sort of damaged and frayed relationships. It is a fairly common occurrence throughout the province.
I'll just see if there's any follow-up from Councillor Kerr, and then we'll go to Councillor.
Just quick follow-up is we're going to be discussing soon the boundaries of the BIA's territory. And then there's a lot of Comox and businesses outside of that. So to me, a natural might be we modify or discuss with the chamber about, okay, except for the downtown core, outside of that BIA zone, can you do that BRE work for us? And then BIA take the lead on the downtown portion. Again, just something, there's got to be a way to make this. So there has to be a solution. I'm an optimist.
Love how solution-based you are. I mean, we can have all the discussions. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, so you're trying to pick your favorite child here. It's hard to
Yes.
do, right? Yeah, so right now we have a contract with the chamber, and is that for another 2 years, or how long does that go for?
We're only 4 or 5 months in, but 2.5 years
Two
with
and a
a
half years.
12-month change.
And so if we were to break that contract, we would assumably have to pay them out, I would think. Is
There-
that correct?
There's a 1 month notice period. Sorry, 1 year notice
1 year,
period.
okay, so we're in it for, okay. Yeah, well, that changes a bit, okay, but we're in it for another year regardless of what we do, I guess is my point. And so is there a rush to do that, to make this decision right away? Because I have to tell you that, you know, tonight I learned a lot about what the chamber's doing and it was really good. I didn't really get the feeling that I got that from the BIA. I know Barb came and she was really sick, and I didn't really get a great understanding of what that was. It would be really helpful to get a really proper presentation from the two and then make a decision.
Thanks for that feedback. Other questions or comments? Just again, this is receiving the delegation from Comox BIA on their interest in doing the BRE work. CAO Wall.
Thank you. And I think I mentioned this at the end of council's last discussion. I think that the chamber and the BIA are both very capable organizations in providing this type of service. I don't think that council is going to be able to find the differentiation between them based on the quality of the services they plan to provide. I think the best and easiest and perhaps only way council is going to come to a conclusion on where you want to go with this is to look at the business landscape right now, look at the supports needed in the business community, the threats faced by the business community, and make a decision as to whether or not those supports are better delivered locally or regionally, and whether or not those threats are more felt locally or regionally, and make the decision that way. That is perhaps a way to remove the choice between two children that you like both of, and think that will provide a good service, and instead look at it as a way that's a little bit more dispassionate, and think at this point, would you rather have those services delivered through a local lens with the positives and negatives that come through that? Or do you think at this point in time, it's better to do it regionally and the positive and negatives that come from that? And I think that will help you come to a decision in a way that's a little bit more or a little bit less choosing one or another, and more just positioning the town of Comox businesses in the best spot you can, given everything that's happening.
Thanks for those comments. I heard that we weren't looking to make that decision this evening, that we were getting the one presentation and we have the previous presentation. Future decisions will come potentially next month, but again, we don't have to make this decision right away. We are in BRE with Chamber currently. And if there's no further questions, we'll just do receipt of the presentation from BIA last meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, and receipt of that presentation is unanimous. Our next item is the Craig Freeman and Edwin Grieve. And that was the item from January 15th on the presentation from the Merville Community Association for the Mac Lane property. The staff recommendation on this one is also to be received.
Move receipt. Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that presentation, Councillor Grant?
Yeah, I'm just, I'm not sure how much the Merville Community Association actually knows about the situation that we have here. And I'm assuming that staff has been in touch with them, but we did do this with them once before on the other house that was there. And once they got looking into it, we didn't hear back from them. So I don't know what the right way to move here is, but I'm concerned that when the Attorney General gets back to us on this, that this could turn into be something that really holds everything up. And I think we've gone at this long enough that it's time that we got moving on it. If they can do something in a really timely manner, which I don't know that they can, then it would be a great move. But I'm just not sure where this all comes down as we wait and what the time frame that the Attorney General would have on this.
Over to CEO Walker, comment on that.
Yeah, thank you. So we have been in touch with the Merville Community Association and let them know the complexity of this file. We recently just got approval for our archaeological permit from the province. So we are preparing to move forward on this demolition. Now, what we have argued to the Attorney General's office right now is that the Attorney General's office has approved demolition of the Shakesides building, and taking it and moving it is just another form of demolition. So if that's how the town decides to demolish, it is within the court-ordered demolition that has already taken place. Now, we haven't gotten confirmation back from the Attorney General's office that they accept this argument. We're waiting to see, but at the same time, I have given direction, I guess you could call it, to the Merville Community Association and ask them to come back to the town within 1 month, and that would have been a week ago that I put that out, with an understanding of how much this is going to cost, where they are going to get the funds from, and what the permitting process and timeline will look like. So we will, at the end of this month, have an idea of how much time it would take to do this and whether or not they have the funding. At that point, we can submit it to the Attorney General's office and see if they're accepting of it. And to council as well to see if you're accepting of it. So in the next 3 weeks here, we should have an idea from the Merville Community Association to see how serious they are and whether or not they have the resources to be able to do it. And at that point, both the Attorney General's office and council can make a decision on how you want to move this forward.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Any other questions or comments before we receive that piece of business? Councillor Swift.
I guess this is going to come from the Merville Association, but I was wondering if they would be anticipating any funds that were set aside for the demolition, and also if the Attorney General would agree that that was a good use of their funds, or how those monies that are in trust would be used.
The Attorney General's office and the communication that we've got back seems to be making it clear that we cannot use funds to move and demolish it in this manner. That is more expensive. That would take away from the funds used to construct. So it does appear that if we were to use the estimated demolition costs towards moving the building, that would be fine, but we couldn't use more than those funds. So if there is a difference between the cost of demolition and moving, it would need to be made up through another source.
Any other questions or comments before we receive that from January 15th, 2025? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. We're moving on to page 63. We have 2 items for the Comox Downtown Comox Business Improvement Area renewal. Number 1, that council proceed with the renewal of the downtown Comox Business Improvement Area on its own initiative in accordance with section 213 of the Community Charter.
That.
It's been moved and seconded, and in the report there, it does share the couple options outside of that one recommendation. If there's any questions or comments on that report. All those in favor of number 1? I'm just going to quickly read that one more time with Councillor Kerbach. The motion on the table is that council proceed with the renewal of the downtown Comox business improvement area on its own initiative in accordance with section 213 of the community charter. Any questions or comments on that recommendation? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. And the second, part two, is that downtown Comox business improvement area bylaw number 2032 be given first, second, and third readings. If I can get a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on first, second, and third reading? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you for the staff report on that and getting us up to date there. We are now moving on to page 74 for RZ 24-13 zoning amendment bylaw 1850.51 around our discussion on fence heights. So we have number one, that Comox zoning amendment bylaw 1850.51 be given first, second, and third reading.
Move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. And number two, that Comox planning procedure bylaw 1780.17 be given first, second, and third reading.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that? Councillor Kirk.
Just really quickly, I know we're kind of breezing through this, but it was a really good report. I enjoyed reading about the how the community feel is affected by fences. That's kind of something I never really thought about before, but walking around, I kind of noticed that this week. So that was kind of cool. And I like how we're finding a solution that allows people to actually get fence panels that are accessible or able to purchase and not custom, but also keeping them low so that's a better community feel. So really good report, really good option proposed by staff. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments. And no further questions on that. All those in favor of number two, the Comox planning procedure bylaw. Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. There are no special reports, so we're moving on to bylaw adoptions. On page 86, we have bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw number 2004.03 for adoption.
Yeah.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on bylaw number 2004.03 for adoption? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. On page 87, we have the dog license and pound amendment bylaw number 1322.02 for adoption.
Move. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. On page 90, we have the fees and charges amendment bylaw 2016.06 for adoption.
Move.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that fees and charges amendment bylaw? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. We're moving on to new business. On page 92, we have the accessibility assessment and action plan that the accessibility assessment and action plan specific to the town of Comox in alignment with the Comox Valley Local Government Accessibility Framework as detailed in the January 30th, 2025 report from the corporate coordinator titled Town of Comox Accessibility Assessment and Action Plan be moved for adoption.
Move. Second.
Moved and seconded. And again, thank you so much to our corporate coordinator for getting that over. That was a 17-18 page report with lots of really good details on what could come in the future, from parking to transportation parks. It was a very interesting read. So thank you for putting that together. Questions or comments before we move adoption of that plan? Councillor Mayor.
Yeah, I really appreciated the thoroughness of this plan, and my question is for staff. I'm just curious about how a plan like this gets kind of integrated. Like, I think that's the aspiration, is that it gets integrated into the work we're already doing rather than being something on the side. And I'm just wondering if there's any comments about how easeful or difficult that might be, given the actions that have been outlined.
Yeah, thanks. It really depends on which action we're talking about. So what we've done is we've created an internal tracking document with specific tasks assigned to different departments. So everybody knows what they're responsible for and aware of. There's some overarching principles that everybody needs to consider, and we've talked about that at senior staff and with the larger management staff as well. But to be, really clear, we do have an internal document that has different initiatives assigned to different departments, and we will be completing those as we go through. And a lot of the larger ticket items are really going to be coming to council and decisions that you'll be making in your budgeting processes.
Any other questions or comments around the accessibility assessment and action plan for adoption? Okay, all those in favor? All those in favor? Thank you, Councillor Blacklock. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. We're moving on to page 110 for the employee standards of conduct policy. Number 1, the council policy number CCL-079, employee standards of conduct policy, be moved for adoption.
Moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on number 1? All those in favor? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Number 2, the council policy number CCL-062, personal use of town assets policy, BDD. Discontinued.
Moved.
Thank you, Councillor.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on that policy discontinuation? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. We're moving on to page 126, the Federal Active Transportation Fund, that council formally authorized staff to proceed with an application for the Federal Active Transportation Fund to upgrade active transportation infrastructure for Guthrie Road, town boundary to 1966 Guthrie, and that the town secure $293,640 to cover costs for the town's portion of the project, which are ineligible for reimbursement. And this is again the sidewalk that would go from the new development to town boundary, trying to make that area safer for pedestrians and
Move that.
active users. Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any questions or comments on this grant request? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. And thank you to staff for looking at trying to get that grant funding. We all said in a previous meeting that was an area we really wanted to try to get grant funding for. So thank you for moving that forward. We're on page 132, the Festival Producer Service Agreement for the 2025 Nautical Days Festival, that the draft service contract with Mark Berg for the production of the 2025 Comox Nautical Days Festival, as attached to the January 31st, 2025 report titled Festival Service Producer Agreement 2025 Nautical Days, be approved, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the contract. Can I get a
Move that.
motion? Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the report for this service agreement? We'll go to Councillor Swift and then Councillor Kerr, please.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if we can hear a little bit about this fellow that's interested in producing the festival.
Go over to CAO Wall and you can direct to Corporate Officer Russell. Thank you.
Hi, yes, we know a little bit about Mark. He is local. I believe he lives in Cumberland. He lives in the Comox Valley. Then he has done some local festivals and events. A couple in Cumberland, the Woodstove Festival, one of their arts festivals. Done some other work, I think, in BC. Seems youngish, very keen, excited to get started, ready to jump right in. Start.
Any other questions or comments on? Okay, Councillor Kerr, did you have a question or that was same question? Love it. Okay, all those in favor of the agreement? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And that'll be exciting for the 2025 nautical days. Page 149, we have the new speculation and property tax declaration. That the January 31st, 2025 report from the Director of Finance titled New Speculation and Property Tax Declaration be received for information.
Moved.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments around this declaration? Councillor Swift, just make sure your mic is on, please. And then we'll go online.
No. I'm not going to tell you the long story of me trying to deal with this, but it is long and it stretches over 2 days. And at the end of it, there is a category that has been missed in the legislation, in my understanding. So the category is, the short form of my story is, I have a storage unit that is assessed as a residential property. And there is no category for that to be exempt under this act. So it's been a category that's been missed. And if I fill out the form, I'm going to get the tax levy, but it's not inhabitable. And the storage unit doesn't qualify as a habitable place. So we're going around in a circle, but I'm not going to be the only one that's in that position. So I'm just drawing everybody's attention to it.
Sounds very frustrating and like you need to try to inhabit the storage unit in protest.
Well, actually, the frustrating part was I phoned and the girl was very nice. I explained the situation and she said, you have to speak to my supervisor. My supervisor quits at 4 o'clock, so you have to phone back tomorrow. So I phoned back tomorrow and I said, I need to speak to a supervisor. And the girl there said, well, what's the problem? And I said, well, I explained it last night and they said I needed to speak to a supervisor, but nope, she wanted to help me too. So after another hour had gone by, she said, you're going to have to speak to the supervisor. And when she tried to transfer me to the supervisor, I went back into the regular menu and then got a third agent who would not transfer me to the supervisor because she wanted to hear the story as well. So I'm still not through to a supervisor, still can't fill out my form. But other than that, I'm sure there's lots of people for whom this process has gone more smoothly. Or I hope.
I think we're going to have a lot of people surprised actually after this just kicked off January 1st. So it'll be I think we're going to be hearing about it as councillors in Town of Comox. We'll go online to Councillor Blacklock.
I noticed through this filling out the form process that even if you are both people on title need to fill it out as well. It's not good enough for just one. Was what I had heard from the province. And the other thing on this is, can anyone tell me why the resort municipality of Whistler is not included on this list of communities?
I don't know that we would have the information on why, but they must have had really good lobbying efforts. We'll just hope people got their mail and know how to do the long process, but it's good to know there might be a storage glitch or error in the system. Councillor Grant.
So I'm just wondering on Maureen's behalf here, would Edward have any idea of how you could actually phone and get a hold of somebody? Because this is it just gets, I hate this kind of stuff. It just drives you nuts.
No, we don't have any specific contacts into this. We just get the notice and the information and the 1-800 number as well.
Any other questions for this new speculation and property tax declaration to just be received for information? Councillor Kerr.
Just wondering if staff have some like quick go-to answers. People are going to call. It's about property tax. They might assume it's town jurisdiction. I was surprised to me when I got it. So just wondering if we're arming our front staff with frequently asked questions and or go to this website or phone this number. Thanks.
Say well.
That's a good point. We'll make sure to have that question with our front end staff so that they're aware and can direct people to the right place.
You know, it's actually a really good strategy. We should get our town staff to actually start doing that. And then we never have any complaints again.
I know when the property tax grants went from town to province, like 3 to 4, maybe 4 years ago, we still get people, I hear them coming in all the time complaining. So I have a feeling the spec tax will be the new that, where this will have years of fallout. So really good for staff to be really aware of the exact details of what's happening, and town will definitely play a part in this, similar to the property tax grant change. Councillor Hazlitt? You just looked ready to ask a question. Okay, this report is for receipt. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you to Director Henley for preparing that for us. All those in favor? Opposed? I'm just gonna do that all again. All those in favor? Opposed? And receipt passes unanimously. Thank you. We're going to page 155. We have the regional sport field allocation policy, fees and booking project update, that the January 30th, 2025 report from the Director of Recreation titled Regional Sport Field Allocation Policy, Fees and Booking Project Update to be received. Thank you. That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the sports field allocation update? Crystal clear. Perfect. Thank you for that updated report, and all those in favor. Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. There are no notices of motion, so we're on page 234. We have the letter from the City of Courtenay and Mayor Bob Wells. They are requesting funds from the town of Comox in the amount of $80,000 from our affordable housing contribution funds to support them in getting the emergency shelter that has been purchased and is getting retrofitted immediately. And they're requesting funds from the town of Comox. So just a question to staff, are we able to receive, and then we can have a conversation after we've received? Great, so I'll just get a motion to receive.
So I was just gonna move receipt and then we grant the funds and then we're done.
Perfect, we can do 2 in 1. That sounds great. Okay, so motion to receive the letter and to provide the $80,000 as requested. Over to CAO Wall for some process.
Thank you. Your affordable housing reserve policy only allows expenditure of these funds within the town of Comox. What we can do is bring the reserve policy to council. Sorry, I shouldn't say policy, reserve bylaw restricts the funds to expenditure within the town of Comox. So council, you'll need to amend your reserve bylaw to allow for the expenditure within the Comox Valley. Not a difficult thing to do, but a necessary step to get there. So maybe if we want to change that motion to be that we bring the affordable housing reserve bylaws for amendment to allow for expenditure in the Comox Valley, then you will be able to grant the funds.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Grant, are you okay that we look at amending the bylaw to allow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Does everyone understand? So we're receiving the letter, we're looking to grant the funds, but we first need to look at the affordable housing bylaw to allow it to be outside of Comox for that 80,000. Questions or comments? Councillor Swift.
Can we, I guess we can't advance the funds prior to changing the bylaw.
I don't think that the city of Courtenay is in a position where we would need to do that. We could probably get into borrowing money from another reserve, and I don't think Courtenay needs the money like tomorrow. I think that they can probably float it until we make the bylaw changes.
Do we know how long that bylaw change? Like, can we escalate that happens sooner than later, just so that we get the funds in a timely fashion?
Yeah, it's a super easy text change. So we'll put it on your meeting on the 19th, and you can adopt the bylaw change in your first meeting in March. It won't take long.
Okay, so we can give an update that it'll be 30 to 60 days basically to get everything done.
You can give them a post-dated check if you like.
Let's do that. Well, just to explain a little bit about what's going on, I talked to Jeff Garbett for quite a while. And so this is just for the it's just for the upgrade so that you can actually house people in this building. So I think they're putting 18 beds and renovating 2 bathrooms and putting a 3rd one in, but it's going to be fenced off. So that once you go in there, you can't come back out, and it's strictly for cold weather. And so I don't think it's going to be what people think of the Connect Center and those kinds of things. And that's what's kind of getting out there. But the reality is that, like, you know, if it's super cold out there and people need a place to go, I think that this is just the compassionate thing to do. So they're not using it to buy the building. There's nothing going on like that. It's simply to get the retrofits so they can use it for housing.
Thanks for those added numbers. And I know their warming center had over 100 people attending the last 3 days of real cold snap. So definitely something we need desperately in the region. Did you have comments, Councillor Kerr?
Yeah, that's great. Happy to support City of Courtney, who really are doing the lion's share of the work in this area. I guess the question for staff is how much is in our affordable housing contribution policy fund currently? And is there a point that we're gonna like set a policy or a plan for those funds? My own personal preference is we go towards more affordable housing units rather than temporary shelters, you know, this request notwithstanding, but just curious if council might have a discussion about how to spend those funds. Thanks.
I'll go over to CAO Wall to report the number, but we depleted it greatly.
We have, I believe, about $240,000 left in that fund. The fund was going to be almost completely depleted through the purchase of those units at 695 Aspen. BC Housing came through at the last minute and provided some funding, and that's why we have a little bit of money left. So the affordable housing reserve is likely not to grow until we pass the zoning bylaws for High Street, Broad Street, and Guthrie. When that does grow, our policy directs us to secure affordable housing units in an appropriate development. So once we have enough funds to be able to secure them, and what we did at 695 Aspen was use those funds to purchase, to basically do the down payment, take out a mortgage that would allow them to still be affordable, meet the affordable criteria so that we could purchase 6 rather than just 1 or 2. And our policy directs us to do that again when we have enough funds.
Any other questions or comments before we vote on receipt and looking at changing the bylaw to be able to provide that 80,000 from the town of Comox for those retrofits for the shelter? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. And thanks to staff for the information, and we'll look forward to that at the next meeting. There are no late items. We will do reports from council. So this is updates you think are helpful for the region, not necessarily if you attended an event or a meeting, but something that's good for the rest of council to be aware of that's happening. I'll start with Councillor Swift and then we'll go to Councillor Haslett.
I have nothing to report.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, we'll go online to Councillor Blacklock.
Just a reminder, the Justice Center is putting on the Beyond Polarization speaker night at the Stanhagen Theater on February the 19th. I believe tickets for this event have been sold out, but there may be an opportunity to buy extra seats at the door. So I am just encouraging everyone to get involved in attending that presentation if you can. That's it from me.
Thank you, Councillor Blacklock. Yeah, I went to look at tickets and they were sold out quite early, so that's great. Means that there's people really wanting to hear about polarization, as we know is in the current world. Councillor Kerr, Councillor Grant, Councillor Mayor, please.
Thanks, Mayor. 3 quick invitations. The first is, as you know, the treaty, the Comox First Nation Treaty vote is happening March 8th, and they're currently looking for volunteers, specifically any elected officials that are available that day to help with various tasks, such as helping with parking and helping with the community dinner. So the members of KFN can enjoy the day and celebrate the result of the treaty either way. Also, you're invited to the Doctor Recruitment Task Force meeting. It's a Zoom meeting Friday, February 28th at noon. all local governments, Chamber of Commerce, Hospital Foundation are invited. And again, it's going to be a bit of an update. It's been a year since our last update, and we've had 4 doctors retire or move recently, and 4 that have come or are on their way this spring. But there's a bit of a lag, and you may have heard in the community that some people have lost their doctor, but help is on the way. So we're going to update local governments about that. And finally, a personal request. We're pretty excited. The Biathlon Club here locally is hosting the BC Championships on Mount Washington later this month. And if anyone wants to come watch some exciting biathlon races and or even volunteer, please get a hold of me, and hope to see you there and cheer on our athletes. Thanks.
So I went to a plethora of RD meetings, so I won't bore you with all of those, but we did have our inaugural 911 meeting. So I got voted back in as president. And the way you get that is to be the only one that actually shows up. That's how that's how you get there. Everybody else zoomed in. So yeah, so being the president, I think that we should be trying to make 911 great again.
Counselor Mayor. Nothing to report, thanks. Okay, just a couple quick things. We're going to do something new today, trying it out. We're going to do a staff star to recognize someone on staff that's doing a really great job. And Director Henley, thank you for putting a name forward for a staff that should be getting some good recognition. We want to take a moment to recognize and congratulate Rebecca from the finance department, who recently got the designation of being a payroll compliance professional, which is a significant accomplishment that reflects her dedication and expertise in the field of payroll, which we all know is pretty important in our organization. So on behalf of Mayor and Council, we want to congratulate Rebecca on getting that designation from the National Payroll Institute. She put a lot of time into getting that. So congratulations to Rebecca on that. And we'll look forward from senior leadership of hearing any other congratulations in your departments in future. And I also just want to give congratulations out to our Comox Youth Council, who won the UROC Award at the Comox Valley Chamber. So that was a really exciting recognition that they were there to receive in person. Congratulations to Hannah and that Youth Council for getting recognized at the recent Chamber Awards. I just want to quickly note that the 10th anniversary of the coldest night of the year is coming up on February 22nd. So about 2 weeks, I can do the math, 2.5 weeks from now. They are looking to raise $225,000 because it's the 10th anniversary for the Comox Valley Transition Society and Dawn to Dawn. So if you are available on Saturday, February 22nd, you can volunteer, you can walk with our team, Team Comox, or any other teams. I know there's Rotaries and other groups involved. Comox Fire has always been a great supporter, so thank you for that again. And just wanted to make note of that. I think they were at about 35 to 40% of funds raised. So they do an amazing job on the national scoreboard of really raising funds for those two organizations. So get involved if you have the time or the donation money. Today, Jordan and I met with the Comox Legion just to kind of touch on a couple of different things, from the cenotaph to what the gaming funds look like, what their future plans are, just basically touch back in on the relationship that we have with Comox Branch 160. And they have a new manager since July, Lauren. And it was a good kind of starter conversation on some of the things we've been talking about with the Legion in the last year. So that was a nice touch base with them. I believe that's it for me. So we'll just go to, there are no media questions. Any questions from the public this evening? Come on up to the mic. And we'll just have 1 or 2 questions about the agenda. 2 questions.
So regarding the BRE that we talked about tonight, we had another presentation from the chamber, and we had a presentation the week before from the BIA, which was not impressive. but I read what their plan was, and that to me was impressive. And I think that it would be nice to, if it's $12,000 each, from my perspective, it would be nice to have it, both of them. The chamber would do the regional and the valley and the Canadian, whereas the BIA would do really specific to Comox, which has its own unique requirements and whatnot. So that's my 2 cents there. The other part of it was about the infrastructure deficit. And that's on my mind all the time. And I just wanted to bring to your attention that the news release we had in August 2nd, 2024 about it talks about 5170 on the 2024 tax notice, with the same increase applied over the next 10 years. And on Ms. Henley's pre-budget presentation on page 8, it's more explicit, saying the annual increases are probably 5179 per average household over 10 years, when it reaches in 10 years $517 a line item. So when people are asking for Comox to provide funds in various places, the taxpayers, I won't be here probably, but in 9 years from now, it's going to be a line item of $500, and it's going to be interesting. So what I'm really trying to say is, I think we should, given we're talking budgets and taxes, that this should be more explicit out there to the Comox citizens, whether some of them noticed it or not at all. But I think we should all be aware of what's coming.
Appreciate those comments. We can discuss on the communications on year 2 of what that levy looks like, because we're all aware that is a 10-year possible unless something changes to get more grant funding. Any other questions from the public? Okay, so with that, I will move for meeting adjournment at 7:13. All those in favor of adjournment? That is, have a good evening. Thank you for coming.